This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 106 for April 2nd, 2017. I'm Crash. All right, and that's 2 for 2 on slightly botched interview or intros. So today we have Luke Gelmi on. I was going to say from, but you're coming from Paris, France, but you're not from Paris, France.
Not from Paris, France. No, I'm Australian.
Yeah. So where out in Australia?
I'm out on the west side. I'm from Perth, so we got good beaches and a lot of sharks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a really nice place.
So we had somebody from the Gold Coast on a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, was that the guy doing the what was it, the build on the what was it, the
Yeah, he
500?
does he has a few builds he has done recently.
Yeah, it was nice to hear
So
another Australian on.
yeah. So you are what are you doing in Paris?
It's a girl's fault that I came out here.
Ah,
Kind of like every other expat who's out here. It seems that everyone I meet is out here for a man or for a woman, or for it always seems to be for love. It's very cliche.
maybe Paris earned the nickname City of Love.
Well, yeah, if it didn't before, it certainly has now.
Yeah. So
No,
you
it's good to be over here. So
good.
yeah, I've been here now for about a year.
Okay.
Just got through my second winter. It was tough.
Is winter like really cold in Paris?
Yeah, it's cold, and it can get a little bit miserable because you kind of it's not cold enough to be that crispy cold. It's that
Oh,
kind of cold where it's just yuck
like
and
damp.
yeah, damp and chilly. And for an Australian, I need some sunshine, otherwise I start to get cabin fever.
Okay.
So it's tough to get through the winters, but once you're through that, it's actually quite a beautiful place to be.
And the winters are in the wrong half of the year for you, huh?
Yeah, so I get all my mates sending me messages from home, from the beach, having beers in the sunshine, and it just kills me.
Yeah.
I've got great friends. They're very supportive.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, great mob.
So you just recently took a trip around West Africa, I
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, an accidental trip around West Africa. It might have been the first
Accidental.
one. Yeah, it might have been the first one to ever
Okay.
be done by accident.
And that sounds like a story. What how did you accidentally take a trip around West Africa on a motorcycle?
Well, while we're talking about the winter, it was the winter that did it to me. So this was a couple of years ago. I quit my job and I thought I'd go and do some motorcycle touring. I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I quit my job, booked a one-way ticket to London, left home, sold all my stuff, and kind of got to London and didn't really know what to do with myself. And I thought, okay, well, no big plans, just go and buy a motorbike. So I went and bought a Royal Enfield of all things. It was going to be either a Royal Enfield or a Triumph. I was
Okay.
kind of I was tossing up between the two, and I'd ridden an Enfield before in India and was absolutely in love with this motorbike. I knew it was impractical, incredibly underpowered, but just so good looking. You can't.
Yeah, they are really nice looking bikes.
Yeah, just that old school look and feel, and it fits me well as a bike. And so I thought, okay, we'll buy one of those and see where we end up. So
Do
I
you do
started
any of your own maintenance?
back then. I didn't know a thing. Didn't
Okay.
know a thing. I had read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance,
Okay.
which is not about Zen and it's not about motorcycle maintenance. So I was very disappointed with that book. I was hoping to learn something about those two subjects and didn't get much of that. Very disappointed. But yeah, so I had done the first and second services I did with the mechanics at Royal Enfield because I wanted to learn. So we're kind of pulling the whole thing apart, which, by the way, the Royal Enfield had some teething problems straight off the bat, like straight out of the factory. I'm getting red engine warning lights coming up about 200 clicks down the road. It was not the kind of stuff you would get out of, probably not the stuff you get out of a Triumph, but we'd have to ask Triumph owners about that.
I have not had that experience.
No, I was thinking I'd made a very poor choice. But we've headed, basically I headed south just to get rid of the winter. And it was, I was fleeing the cold and the wet in the Scottish Highlands. And it was just, you know what it's like to be riding in the wet. It's never good fun.
No.
So I've fled south, ended up getting to the bottom of Spain, and kind of ran out of Europe to outrun the winter too, if that makes sense. So I was like, okay, it's either garage the bike or go to Morocco. And so I went to Morocco.
Nice.
Yeah, it was never part of the plan. It was never supposed to happen. I didn't really have the paperwork for it. I didn't have any idea what I was doing, but I thought, you know, why not? Let's go to Morocco and see what that's like.
And what was that like?
Well, it was a bit of a shock. It was a bit of a culture shock. I'd been having the whole way that I'd been going south. I'd been having everyone telling me not to go to the next country south. So in England, they were saying, don't go to France, your motorbike will get stolen. And in France, they were saying, don't go to Spain, your motorbike will definitely be stolen. And the Spanish were going, are you suicidal? Do not take your motorbike to Morocco. It'll get stolen the first day. Like, it's going to get nicked.
That's really funny.
Do it.
I think everybody, anytime I hear a motorcycle traveler talk or talk to a motorcycle traveler, they always say that, like, everybody says the next country that you're going to go to is the worst place on earth.
Full of thieves, just full of thieves, and they cut your ears off, and not friendly people.
Yeah, they'll steal your kidneys and sell them on the black market.
Yeah, I think that's more to do with football than it's to do with the actual people.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, a bit of cross-border rivalry. So they basically, I was freaking out by the time I got to Morocco. I thought I was, and it was a huge jump from Europe into sort of this Northern Africa. It felt like Aladdin. I was expecting Africa, but it was like Aladdin. It was weird. Aladdin with a lot of cat pee is how I would describe.
I imagine that if you could actually be in Aladdin, there'd probably be a fair amount of cat pee.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You can't smell Aladdin, but Aladdin, I'm sure, reeks of cat pee.
Yeah, very musky cat pee.
Yeah, Morocco's gross. Morocco's pretty disgusting, and it's full of tourists as well. It's
I feel like that makes a place
out,
worse.
But not impressed. Oh, for sure. We wherever we'd go, we'd sort of get harassed. There were people who had set up their lives to kind of, their shtick was to take advantage of tourists. Like, there's a whole industry set up for taking advantage of tourists. So you just get harassed everywhere you go, and you can't be left alone.
Was it my friend? Come, I give you a good price. Come.
Oh, that constantly, and they'd be grabbing you, trying to pull you into Senegal shop. And you've been to Senegal?
Yeah.
Oh, mon ami, da 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 da. And it
never
ends, right?
I spent 4 days in Dakar.
What were you doing in Dakar?
Well, I'm in the Navy, and the ship I was on pulled into Dakar for something, I don't know what exactly. And we walked around the city a lot, and it was just, I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of people calling out.
Oh yeah, and they all want a piece of you, right?
Yeah.
How's your French?
Non-existent.
That would have been even harder.
but there a lot of them. Most everybody spoke English that we ran into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was strange. I know that Senegal is a former French colony, but we've ran into a lot of people that spoke English.
Okay, I think it's from watching the movies. I think that sort of the culture of Hollywood has a much wider reach than it might think.
Yeah, we had a guy that was with us that he's um he's an American black man, and he looks, I guess, slightly like the rapper Akon, and Akon is from Senegal, and so
Right.
like everybody kept like telling him like he looks like Akon.
Oh, that he is a he could have
Yeah,
probably gotten away with saying that he was Akon.
yeah.
They would have thought he was a god. Oh, but
So
Akon is much better than the music that they were playing over there. What did you think of the music? I couldn't
I didn't. I
deal.
don't. I don't know if I heard much of any of it.
Okay.
Um, we went. We walked around the city a lot. I visited. There's a like there's an island off the coast of Dakar called Gori Island.
Yes, another one.
Okay, yeah. We visited. There's like a tour you can take. So we did that. For those of you that do not know the island, it was a fort that was used heavily in the African slave trade.
Mm.
So
Awful place.
yeah,
Just a
the
real,
yeah,
yeah, awful
really
place. And
crappy
I
history.
I hated Dakar. Just between you and me, my favorite thing about Dakar is the name, and then I get to say I've been to Dakar, like
Yeah.
the Dakar, and that's kind of where it ends because we were shacked up there for about a month and a half.
Hmm.
I'd picked up a hitchhiker in all the way back in Spain. I'd met this other Australian, and he was a lunatic, and he was basically hitchhiking his way around Europe, and he'd hitchhiked his way all the way up Africa
Hmm.
to get to Europe. And I'm like, this guy is insane. I love the guy. He's brilliant. And I'm like, you have to come with me. You jump on the back of the motorbike and we'll go to West Africa together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so this little Royal Enfield was going two up with full luggage in Africa. But anyway, we got to cutting a longer story short. We ended up getting to Dakar, and we'd been out surfing and that kind of stuff. And when we got home from the day out, just all of our stuff had been nicked,
Oh man.
gone. Yeah, and I'd just got a new credit card in that morning. I had to get it sent from Australia because here's a fun fact: Mastercards do not work anywhere in West Africa.
Huh.
Yeah, right. Who knew? So only Visa cards work. So I needed to apply for a Visa card back in Australia and get people to send it out to me in Dakar. And the same day that I got it activated, so it was finally ready to use. I've been waiting forever to get my hands on it. And that afternoon, it all gets stolen. It
Wow.
was just, it sucked. So I had to get another one sent out. I had to get a bunch of other stuff sent out. It was going to be about another 3 weeks wait. And during that 3 weeks, I was basically crook the whole time. It was it was
Wow.
not a good month for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen when you're in West Africa. You're going to get crook a bit. You're
It's like
going to get,
Visa. It's everywhere you want to be, and also West
yeah,
Africa,
yeah. Who knew, right?
where
Like, I
you are
wish
stuck.
someone. It's interesting because people sometimes ask me for advice, and most times I'll kind of be like, oh, just go and you'll figure it out for yourself. But the one piece of advice that I do give is make sure you have a Visa card
Huh.
because it's the one thing that you couldn't have possibly known before you took off. And it's just going to be a nightmare to get it fixed up once you're there. So it's not something you can really learn on the job without taking a whole lot of pain for it. So that would be my one piece of advice. Get a Visa card. Everything else you can learn on the job.
So, you in your original email to me, you said that you saved a man's life after you killed him first.
Yeah, yes. This is not my proudest moment, but it all works out okay. So that story's I was in Ghana and we just had a whole week of just brutal thunderstorms coming through off the coast. And it cleared, and it was raging hot sunshine and just the most brutal humidity you can imagine. And I'm riding around on my motorbike with a full leather jacket, big enduro black helmet, Kevlar jeans, and big fat riding boots. I was stinking hot at the end of the day. And so I had to go for a swim, right? Once I shacked up, I was like, I've got to go for a swim.
Yeah.
But the surf, because of the storms, the surf was enormous. Like, I can swim all right. I'm a pretty good swimmer, you know, growing up on the beach and all. But this was some big stuff. Like,
yeah.
But I thought, no, bugger it. I have to go out there and at least have a quick swim. So I swim out past the breakers and kind of bob around out there and freak myself out for long enough and decide to swim back into the shore.
Right.
And I've got my glasses off, so I'm not really seeing quite right. Everything's all blurry. And I see a kind of another blob in the water, because until now it had just been me. Like, even in a packed beach on a hot Saturday, I was the only one crazy enough to go out for a swim. And so I'm like, thank God there's somebody else out here with me. But then I've kind of swum my way over to him a bit. And then I realized that he's kind of trying to wave to the beach. And then I've kind of gone even a bit closer. And I've gone, oh, Jesus, he's drowning, right?
Oh.
Yeah. He'd, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm like, what's he doing out here if he can't swim? Like, it's suicidal to be out here, even if you can swim, and he can't. So what the heck? And it turned out that he got swept off the beach by a big wave.
Wow.
Yeah, so he got swept out, and the water was too deep to stand. So I've gone over and grabbed him, and I'm kind of trying to tread water and hold him above the water at the same time as we're getting hit by waves. And it wasn't going well. It wasn't going well. And I think we kind of got to the point where I sort of saw where this was going, that there was not going to be, there wasn't going to be anyone else coming out to save him. And B, I wasn't going to be able to get the job done. And we've both kind of totally panicked at this stage, and he's jumping all over me. He's trying to pull me down to kind of pull himself up, which is kind of fair enough. And so I've as soon as I've realized that I can't really do much for him, I've just shoved him off me and gone swimming back into shore. I just left him. And, and as I'm swimming into shore, I'm like, I just killed a guy. Like, that's
right.
He's cactus. So I've gotten into shore, and it took a while of pummeling to get back into shore. I'm kind of there. I felt awful for it, because I knew I could have done more, and I didn't really try. I didn't kind of really get to the point where I was suffering. I've kind of gone, nah, and just kind of give him a shove off. And I'm like, I've just killed a guy. And then somebody comes running down to the shore with a surfboard. And I'm like, yeah, good, go get him. But then they give it to me. They give the surfboard to me. And I'm like, no, nah, I didn't want to go back out there again.
Right.
I didn't. And I'm in this kind of crazy fight or flight sort of reflexy sort of thing. And I took there's this guy drowning out there in the water, and I took the time to put the ankle strap on. You know, the ankle strap of the surfboard. I'm like, are you insane? Even while I'm doing it, I'm like, am I completely insane? Like, I'm putting the ankle strap on to save my own skin again. By this stage, I'm feeling awful. I feel just terrible. This is the worst thing I've ever done. And I get back, by the time I've gotten back out there with the surfboard, he's drowned. He's gone. All you can see is the back of his back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like he's floating face down.
Yeah, it was that kind of awful image of a drowned person. It was just horrible. So by that stage, a couple of other people have gone swimming out to sort of help, and it's just a mess. So now we've got about 4 people out there who are drowning. Everyone's drowning. And so when I get back out there with the surfboard, they all latch onto the surfboard and leave the body kind of bobbing around. But eventually we get him onto the surfboard, get him back into shore. And I'm like, okay, that's it. It's done. It's over. But then I thought, you know, I know some CPR.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting any deader. I can't make it worse.
Right.
So let's, you know, let's roll that out and let's give that a try. And so I've gone, I'm trying to think it's the DR ABC, Dr. ABC. So I'm like, D, what's D, danger, no danger. So no danger, moving on. R is resuscitation. What does that even mean, resuscitation? And I'm trying to remember what the resuscitation means. I'm like, isn't this whole thing a resuscitation? I go, right. No, R is, so I'm kind of paralyzed there on the sand. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, no, R is response. R for response, not resuscitation. I've got, okay, response. So I've got to hit him. And so I wind up and I give him a massive slap across the face. And nothing happened. He's still dead. But everyone on the beach who'd gathered around and everyone who was going psycho, they've all started punching the guy. They're punching him, they're kicking him, they're just laying into this dead guy on the beach, and I'm screaming at them to like stop. And they won't stop. This guy down the end's punching him in the leg over and over and over, and I'm going, oh Jesus, this is a nightmare. Now I finally get them to stop, but there's one guy down the end who just won't stop punching him in the leg. So I'm like, he can do that, like whatever. That makes him feel better. And so A for airways, I've opened his mouth up and he hasn't vomited or anything, and okay, move on. B for breathing, you got to do the whole mouth to mouth bit. So
rescue breaths.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I don't really want to do this. Like I kind of got to. There's not much of a choice right now. And so I've opened his mouth up and done the whole mouth to mouth bit and given him a big breathful. But I haven't tilted his head back or blocked his nose. So all the snot in his nose has come flying out in my cheek.
Oh.
It was disgusting. I'm like, this is
That's
the worst
good reason
resuscitation
to close the nose off.
Ever. Yeah, block the nose. Otherwise, you just get a big thing of, yuck. Awful. So I finally get that right, and up goes his chest when I give him a breath. And then we start so it's Dr. ABC onto circulation, which is the whole, you know, is it circulation or compression?
I think it's compression.
Compression makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I start doing the compressions on him, and everyone who was laying into him, punching him before, they all start compressing him all over his body. So there's one guy giving him a compression on his stomach. The idiot down the end is compressing him in the thigh. It's just, it's a complete shambles, a complete debacle. But I've kind of done the compressions, and then I've given him another breath, and I keep doing compressions, and he starts kind of convulsing, and I've flipped him like a chair, like just flipped him onto his side.
Yeah.
And he just starts throwing up all this water, and I'm like, oh, this is good, right? He's coming back. And I've flipped him back again and given him some more compressions and given him some more breaths, and then flipped him again, and he's thrown up again, and then he started breathing. After even with the most African of resuscitations, with the most botched resuscitation in history, but it's worked. I even now I still can't believe it.
Yeah,
thank God he lived, because I couldn't have lived with it otherwise.
I have to requalify on CPR every 2 years.
Yeah, it's important, right?
In my job, and we the video that they use here when we go through the course, it's like this video that explains how to do it, and then there's like an instructor that has like a dummy that you do the work on as well. But at the end of the video, they go over these scenarios of like, you're in a movie theater and this happens, what do you do, right?
Right.
And one of them is like, it's like you're in a movie theater, somebody else, you know, falls to the ground, someone else starts doing CPR, what do you do? And I was like, I ask them if they are qualified to do CPR, and then I go call 911. And people are like, why do you just leave him there? I'm like, because if he's already good, like if that guy's doing CPR, I'll be right back, I'll help him out. But Personally, if I can avoid putting my mouth on someone else's mouth, I probably will.
Oh, totally. Like the whole
That would be
time
just as
that I was,
helpful calling the ambulance.
yeah, for sure. And the whole time that I was leading up to the sort of mouth to mouth bit, I'm kind of looking up the beach, being like, when's the doctor going to arrive?
Right. You're like, I
Somebody,
know this is, I'm getting to this part. It's coming up.
yeah. How come no one stepped through the crowd and gone like, stand back? I'm a doctor. I was,
You're right.
and because there were in Ghana, there are actually quite a few tourists.
Hmm.
So I was kind of, I'm like, if I kind of delay this out long enough, somebody has to come, like, and just kind of relieve me of this duty, that of this thing that I've got to do, that not, or just somebody who at least knew what they were doing and wasn't going after resuscitation.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Somebody that was like,
I'm,
that had it right there.
yeah, a doctor, a nurse, friggin' anyone at all, and not some engineer from Australia.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a minute ago what you said you quit your job and moved to England, like what you did before before that, what job did you quit?
Yeah, I used to be, I guess I still am, a chemical engineer. So I worked
Okay.
for a big oil and gas company, and
Ah,
it was a good job. I liked that job, but I got that feeling that if I didn't do the big adventure now, like there and then, that I would do something else stupid, like buy a house, or something mature, and
get really settled.
yeah, I felt like it was my last chance, that a girl might come along, or there are any number of reasons that can stop you from being sort of no strings attached, go do something crazy.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
felt like I was right in the slot for that. So even though I liked that job, and it was a good job, and it was hard to quit it, but I felt like it was a now or never sort of a proposition.
Right. So do you still have the Enfield now?
I I do. I feel so sorry for that bike. It went through a very, very tough, something like 30,000 kilometers. So what would that be in miles? About
Um,
20,000 miles ish.
yeah, yeah.
The problem is I'll never know how far it went, because the speedometer cable broke in the Gambia, and I didn't
Okay.
replace it for about 10,000 kilometers. So for 10,000 kilometers, I didn't know how fast I was going. I didn't know how far I'd traveled. It was just kind of blank.
Yeah.
So no, I still have it. It's at home in Australia. It hasn't been ridden since Africa.
Okay.
I'm all ridden out ever since then. It's
So
just kind of sitting
no
there in the garage.
motorcycles at all since then?
Well, I've got at home. I've also got a BMW 800 GS of all
Okay.
bikes. Yeah, which is the right bike for the job. It's one of those enduro adventure type bikes, and everyone thought I
Sure.
was insane going with an Enfield. But the heart wants what the heart wants. But
Yeah.
I've ridden the BMW a bit. I haven't ridden the Enfield since.
I think that's understandable. How long did the trip take you?
Uh, about a year and a bit under a year and a half. So
Wow.
it's a really long ride. Like down that west coast, there's something like, I don't know, there must be something close to 20 countries.
Yeah,
So
they get really densely packed there for a little bit.
yeah, there's a couple of countries there in the middle where if you come up to a roundabout, the direction for the roundabout in one way, like the street sign will say, turn left for Benin and turn right for Ghana. Like the country is so small that at a roundabout you can get two different countries for the direction
Yeah,
on either side. So,
that's funny.
but even with a really, really small country, you still need the full visa. You still need all that stuff. So if you're not prepared, and I wasn't, if you're not prepared before you start, it's going to take a very long time to do.
That almost sounds like more interesting though? Like you end up, because I'm assuming like so you waited in the country you were in trying to get approval to go to the next one.
Yeah, that's right. You just kind of pick them up as you go along.
Yeah.
And because the thing with something that Africa taught me pretty early on was that you can't plan this. If you've got a plan, the only thing that you can be sure of is that things will not go according to that plan.
The Have you heard the phrase "no plan survives first contact with the enemy"?
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much.
in this
That
case,
that
the
hits
enemy
the
is
nail on the head.
Africa. So does your
Well,
plan.
yeah, it's just going to demolish your plan straight away. So
Did
the
you
the
did you have to have a carnet de passage at any point, or
don't talk to me about the carnet de passage. I, it was the bane of my existence. I didn't have one. I By the time I kind of got to the point where I realized that I might be going to Africa, it was kind of too late to get one.
Mhm.
It was the whole process of picking. So for the people who might not know, the carnet de passage is kind of like, I don't know. You might call it in the same way that I can't cross a border without a passport. For me, you really shouldn't be able to cross a border without a carnet for your vehicle. So without having it, it's a vital piece of paperwork.
It's
And
expensive too.
it's I is it thousands of dollars? Is
I
that what we're talking?
I
Something
believe
nuts.
so. I've never had to do it, but I believe it's depending. I've heard that it varies, but it's like roughly like a significant percentage up to the full value of the vehicle.
Can you imagine paying the full value of the vehicle just to have this piece of paper?
Yeah, I mean they give it back to you supposedly. Like like you put up like a deposit and you get a like most of it back in the end. I If I
Well, I
remember
guess
that.
I guess that makes a bit of sense, right? Because the whole point of the carnet de passage is that it's an insurance against companies, against countries having vehicles dumped. So you import the vehicle and then just dump it there without exporting it. I think
Right.
that's
Yeah,
what
you
they're
just
for,
leave
right?
it or whatever.
Yeah. I might be wrong with that. Honestly, it was never something. Once I realized that I wasn't going to be able to get one because of all the paperwork involved, and it was going to be very expensive, and
Right.
I had to be a resident somewhere in Europe, and I really wasn't. So I just kind of decided to try and do it without it. And to do that, you're basically going to have to get a lot of what's called temporary import permits or laissez-passers,
Hmm.
which is you have to negotiate that at every border you get to, which is a
Yeah.
total crapshoot because basically you're putting yourself in the power of the customs officials at the border of the country that you're trying to get into. And
Yeah.
if they say it can't be done or they just don't want to give you one, then that's kind of it. Like you're kind of stuck. So every border would always be interesting. It would there was never a dull moment at border crossings. I'll give you the tip. It was a nightmare.
Did you run into that? Did you ever get somewhere and they're like, no, you can't?
Yeah, you would find quite a few, but there's kind of tactics you can kind of do to get around that. Like
Yeah.
basically, you need to outlast them for patience.
Okay.
Mostly, if you can be sort of obstinate and or just basically even just sit there in front of their faces for long enough, they'll get bored of you and kind of move you on.
Yeah, I
But
feel like there's a desire on their part to just okay, let's just get rid of this guy.
yeah, just get out of my face. Stop annoying me. So if you can be as irritating, it depends, right? So you can either ask. It's kind of horses for courses. Sometimes you ask nicely. Sometimes you kind of take a harder approach and sort of say, you sort of go demanding it, but be very careful with that.
Hmm.
Um, but what I found is that the further along I went, the less people would be telling me that I can't do things
Okay.
because you can kind of roll out the line Like if they're saying, you can't come you can't come in here without a carnet, you can kind of go into this sort of mode where you just rattle off the names of every single country that you've been to before you
Yeah.
got here. And by the end, that was a very long list. And kind of go, I've been through all of these places, all without a carnet. I know what I can do. Give me the import permit kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
And
you've got at that point you've got your passport book just full of like I went here and here and here.
oh yeah, and that would be and you've nailed it there. Like you can pull out your passport and just flip through all the stamps and just bore them for 5 minutes saying check out all the places I've been to, and no
Hmm.
one's ever given me trouble about not having a carnet, and you're the only person in all of Africa
Right.
who's
Even
given
though
me
every
trouble.
single one of them has given you trouble about
Oh
not
yeah,
having a card.
everyone gives you trouble because it depends where you go, but you can go to some places where they're looking for stuff to kind of trip you up on.
Hmm.
But luckily for like they'll go looking at your immunization certificates, they'll go looking into your insurance. All of my paperwork was totally not forged, but it wasn't exactly legitimate.
Right.
And they even though this kind of here it is, here's this thing they can put me over the barrel for, it's staring them right in the face, and they would still miss it. They'd pull out my bogus insurance
Hmm.
and it looks legit, and they'd kind of just pass right over it.
Yeah.
And then my yellow fever certificate book didn't even have yellow fever certificate, like it didn't have the stamp on it for yellow fever. It had typhoid and all the other stuff, but it didn't actually have the yellow fever in, which is the one that you need to get into a lot of the countries.
Right.
Which isn't to say I haven't had the injection. I have. I'm not that stupid.
That's really funny. They're like fixated on this one thing that you don't have when they've got all this like documentation that they could just like poke holes in.
Oh yeah, there are chinks in my armor everywhere, and they just miss it. They just miss it. And I had one guy in Liberia. He went through my papers for about 10 minutes, and that's a very long time to be keeping somebody on the side of the road for. Like he's going through and checking my vehicle, my VIN numbers, my chassis numbers, my engine numbers. He's kind of going through and cross-checking everything to make sure it's all legit. And he's got all of this ammunition right in front of him, and he can't see any of it. Like all of this bogus paperwork, and he just can't. For Liberia, I didn't even have a laissez-passer. I didn't even
Hmm.
have a temporary import permit. And he didn't even ask for that. And yet he's looking so hard to try and find something to trip me up on that in the end he tells me that my saddlebags are illegal. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He
That's
goes, it was weird. So he goes, these bags are illegal in Liberia. And I'm like, no, they're not. And he's like, yes, they're not supported underneath, and this is illegal in Liberia. And I'm like, it's just not. It's clearly not. He's looking
yeah.
for a bribe or something. And I just, again, you just outlast them for patience, and they say, this is illegal, and you just keep saying back, no, it's not. And that just go around and around in circles until they get bored.
That's interesting.
Liberia was tough. Just before that exchange, a couple of days before then, in a place called Monrovia, I got pulled over by they weren't riot police, but they were police dressed in full riot gear,
Right.
and
Doesn't
that
Monrovia
scared.
sound like a fake country's name?
It does, and even worse is Mauritania. I thought it was.
Oh,
It
yeah.
sounds too much like Mauritius.
Yeah, it's
Like
like what who came up with this name?
Mauritania. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel,
Hmm.
like some faraway galaxy of Mauritania. No, but that's a place, and that's where most of the Sahara is. That's an incredible place. But anyway,
So you're in
back to
Monrovia.
Monrovia. Um, I'd just had a bad week. It had been a really bad week. I'd eaten. What set it all off was that I'd eaten fish with my hands, and that was a poor choice. I should have known better by then that you can't eat something with your hands after touching the money, which is filthy,
Oh yeah.
and expect to get away with it. So I had 4 days of just bad things. It was it was tough. And what kind of compounded the difficulty of that was I was and I have to qualify this. I was in a brothel, but it wasn't my choice. All the other accommodation options in Monrovia wouldn't let me keep the motorbike inside. They told me that I had to keep it on the street.
Right.
And so in the end, the only place that would let me keep the motorbike inside was this kind of brothely, it was a seedy, horrible place. So I'm stuck in there for 3 days straight with the trots. It was it was a bad week. It was a really bad week. But I come out of there. I can finally leave because I've got the visas to leave, and I get pulled over by these riot police, and they recognized straight off the bat that I didn't have the permit. I didn't have the right permit that I needed to be on that road, and they were trying to put me over the barrel for it. They took the keys out of my ignition and pocketed them, and just said, "You're under arrest. You're under arrest, and you're going to jail." And
Oh,
I was a shattered man. I was, after being so sick for 3 days straight. I hadn't eaten anything. Just a kind of a shell of a man, and now I'm copping this from the police. I was just ready to, I'd just have a complete meltdown. It was meltdown central. But
yeah.
they held me for about an hour until they got to the point where they're like, okay, so here are your options. You can either go to a Liberian prison for 6 months, or you can pay a fine.
And did you pay the fine to them directly?
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking, because this is the first time I've ever. This was a long way down Africa already, and I'd never paid a bribe before. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right.
It's my first bribe, and I had $1,000 in my pocket inside my jacket, and I would have given them all of it just to leave.
Yeah.
If they had said it's $1,000, I would have said, here, take it, just let me go.
Right.
And he's gone, so you can pay the fine, and the fine is $50 American.
Right.
And I've gone, oh my God, thank God for that. Thank God he didn't say, $700 or something like that. So he's going for 50. And I've got 20. And
Right.
he's gone, okay, $20 done. So that
Yeah.
was my first and only African bribe.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and
I
then
think.
I got a bit further down the road, and I was eating the first meal in a number of days. It was just an underripe banana on the side of the road, and then some idiot reversed over my motorbike.
Oh.
It was a bad week.
Oh man.
It was a really bad week.
The I think the conception, at least, you know, my kind of thoughts about it are that like you're bribing almost every step of the way, or is it that's always a
Yeah,
possibility? Is that like that's sort of like the idea is that you never know, that this guy's gonna ask for a bribe in like 2 seconds. Here we go and bribe.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
It was definitely my. I didn't think I was going to make it out the other side of even Morocco without losing all my money to paying bribes.
right.
It's it really is the reputation that Africa has, is that it's just going to be, every time you get stopped, it's going to be, paying a bribe. And I was thrilled to find out that that's not the case at all. Like, I never got asked for money. I would get a lot of not a lot of trouble, but I would get officials who are obviously looking to try and pull me up over something. But I found that I could talk my way out of almost every situation except for this one. I
Right.
tried to talk my way out of this one, but it turned they normally they're just picking up rubbish to try and get you for. But these guys had something legitimate, and they meant business. I wasn't willing to test them to see if they were really going to put me under arrest. Not that day. I just couldn't. And so that was the only time I ever paid an upfront bribe. The rest of it was all fine. there's lots of checkpoints where you'll get your papers checked. Of course, there's lots of borders where you're going to probably have lots of border officials trying to get you for charges that don't actually exist. And if you know what you should be paying and what you shouldn't be paying, you can kind of tell them to go to hell if they're charging you for something that they shouldn't be. And you kind of build that up over time. But by and large, it was far easier than I expected it to be. I didn't think I would be able to do it, not by myself, but it's totally doable. It's surprisingly doable.
That's really good to hear. So, you writing a book about this?
Yeah. I used to send home these sort of emails from time to time, about once a month from the trip. And early on, like when I was still in Europe, it was kind of like, today I got a haircut and bought some new socks. And
Yeah.
that was kind of as far as it went. And then I'd say, love Luke. And that would be my email home. And there was nothing really more to say. And by the end of the trip, I was writing these epic emails home of, oh, last week in Congo, I thought I was going to die because I got a tire puncture kind of thing. And here's what happened. And there would just be these essays of just enormous amounts of just crazy stuff. And that would just be the last month. And I had of course, all my family are saying rubbish like, you really need to write a book. Like, this is great stuff. You should write a book on this. And it's kind of like, you're getting told that by your family. Of course, they're going to say that.
Right.
And I didn't think very much of it. But then I got an email sent to me from a friend of a friend who they'd forwarded the email on to their friend of a friend. So it was somebody who I didn't know, somebody who I'd never met before.
Yeah,
and
third party.
Yeah, completely arm's length. And they sent me an email direct saying, just want to say that we love your stories. The family and we sit around the dinner table and read them out over dinner.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, like, okay, thank you. That's very kind of you. It surprised me. I thought they were, good stories, but I never really thought much of it other than that. And that was kind of the moment where I went, maybe I will write a book. Like, let's write this up. And it ended up, and so I wrote a book, and I didn't know how long it was. I spent a long time on it. And I was talking to a publisher, a friend of mine who used to be in publishing. I was like, how long should a book be? And he's like, oh, a book should be about 60,000 words.
Yeah.
And I've gone, oh, okay. He goes, how long's your book? And I'm like, I've never checked. And so we went and did a word count on it, and it was 210,000 words.
That's a few more than 60.
It's enormous. So it's a huge book, and it would have been too much. And the guy's going, look, you're going to have to cut out 2 of every 3 words. You got to cut it back. You can't have a book that's that long. And instead, I thought, you know what? Instead of doing that, why don't we have a trilogy? Because all epics come in trilogies, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, this is like you're a fantasy writer writing about real things.
Bingo, you've got it. So I thought, I'm just having fun with this. So let's make it a trilogy. Who gets to say that they're a trilogy author? No one. So I'm now a trilogy author. I'll add that onto my CV.
Yeah. That's really cool. Where is the book available yet? Is it like how can people find out about it?
It is. So the part 1 of the trilogy is nice and polished up. It's ready to go, and I've just recently released it online. What would it be? About a couple of weeks ago. So
Okay.
It's fresh. It's fresh off the press. You can get it at a website called obliviousthebook.com. So the name of the trilogy is the Oblivious Trilogy. as in oblivious, as in no idea what you're doing, kind of thing.
Right.
Like no, no understanding of the general situation, completely oblivious. So it's obliviousthebook.com, and you can get it there now for free. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's been a pleasure to write it, and I can produce it there fairly cheaply. So I thought I'd give it away for free.
It's very magnanimous of you.
Why not?
So obliviousthebook.com. Okay.
Obliviousthebook.com, and it's so that gets you the start, and it gets all the way through to, so we go past Dakar and we finish up in Sierra Leone. So we're about to go through Blood Diamond, the country that brought you Blood Diamond and all those wonderful Leonardo DiCaprio accents
Yeah.
of a South African.
Yeah.
That was the next country, and then after that you've got countries like Liberia, which was delightful, and Nigeria, also delightful, and then the Congos.
Cool. I work with a man from South Africa.
It's a wonderful accent.
Yeah, I love listening to it. There's a few guys at work that say they can't understand anything he says, especially because we have like an intercom system. And he'll be working in like I'm a helicopter mechanic basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll be working in like the maintenance control office where they kind of dictate priorities and stuff. And so they have an intercom that goes to all of our offices, and he'll come over the intercom and say something. And there's a handful of people that are like, I have no idea what he says ever.
No,
ever.
Even as an Australian with a similar accent, I still lose it. It took me a while after getting to South Africa to kind of pick up on the accent. It takes a few days of a customization.
Yeah, I can hear it, but I cannot reproduce it to save my life.
It was on the tip of my tongue to just have a try, and then I thought, no, you can't do that. You can't do that on the podcast. It'll just ruin everything. It's really bad.
Yeah, I love when I heard a talk by Douglas Adams before he died, the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, which is the opening piece of information on that book is probably the most important thing to doing a trip like this, which is don't panic. But anyway,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah. So always know where your towel is.
Yeah. Yes. I left my towel behind off an island off the west coast in a place called Barbecue Island, which is off the coast of Guinea-Bissau, and I was devastated to lose my towel. Devastated. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah.
You were saying that
I heard him he was talking about some sort of wildlife conservation thing, and he said that he was going to do an Australian accent, and it was terrible, but most of the audience was American, so they'd never notice.
Yeah. I'll have to look that up because I'd be curious to see what he sounds like as an Australian.
Yeah, I believe it was a talk about do you have cormorants in Australia?
Go again. What was that?
It's a kind of bird, a cormorant.
I'm not a bird watcher.
I don't know. It was about a particular bird species,
right,
on the verge of extinction. He was talking about how their mating practices are kind of stupid. Like,
is that why they're going extinct?
Part of it. He said that he was doing he was with a team trying to like count them or whatever, and he said that when he learned that the males, their mating call is like this really low bassy kind of rumble noise. And he said, like, if you've ever set up a home stereo system, like it's the one speaker that you can kind of put anywhere because the sound sounds like it's coming from everywhere, is the bass, the subwoofer.
Right.
Like, so the females are like hearing this noise and not knowing where it is because it's bass, and they can't pick up which direction it's coming from very accurately.
Right. So as far as they're concerned, there's just
he's like, how is that
coming
helpful?
in from everywhere.
Yeah. He's like, that's the stupidest mating call ever.
Ineffective.
Yeah.
It's the kind of panda effect, isn't it? Which is, if they can't make it work, then should we really be doing that for them, or should we just let them go extinct gracefully?
Yeah, I wonder about that sometimes. Like our need to conserve versus, the sort of Darwinian survival of the fittest
Yeah. I think
thing.
it's fair enough when it's us who are stuffing it up for them and it's our fault. Then yeah, we should probably be trying to do better with that. But when
Yeah.
the animals just, even in an ideal situation, couldn't get it to work, it's probably time up on that species.
Yeah. I think that's a fair way to look at it, actually.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure somebody will take issue with it. I don't know if there's enough listeners of the show to have a conservationist really lose
I'll give yourself
their
some
mind on it.
credit. I'm sure there'll be a
But
few out there.
maybe we'll get some hateful emails. I can't believe you said that about birds and
Oh,
whatever.
I would love it if my book got some hate mail coming through. I'll know I've made it if
Yeah.
I start getting hate mail. That'll be the day. I'm
All
sure
right.
I will. The book is very colorful, so I'm sure it's going to offend many, many, many people.
That's that's good. So,
It's my ambition.
we talked very briefly about sweariness before the show. Is the book sweary?
It starts out with a swear word. I think the third word in. Hang on. The fifth word in is a swear word. So
All right. So just to
straight off
set
the
the
bat,
tone.
yeah, exactly. I wanted to let the reader know that this isn't going to be literature. This is going to be as it is, like straight up raw. I'm unpolished, kind of. You're getting the real deal, or at least that's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
But the book is full of colorful language. It's kind of swearing as only an Australian could swear.
All right.
It's you'll have to read it. Go, yeah. Like I was
Yeah,
saying, go to.
I'm interested. Is it so you said that it's available for free. Is it a ebook?
It is an ebook, so and the cool thing about ebooks these days is you can read them on anything.
Sure.
And because I haven't done it through Amazon, and Amazon, we won't go into the depths of it, but they kind of charge you for every image that you put into the book. Because I've
Mhm.
just done it myself, there's 50 images in there.
Oh, cool.
So it's not kind of like one of these normal books where, and we all do this. As soon as we get a book that's got pictures of it in the middle, we all just go straight to the middle and look at the pictures, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the best part of the book, is all the pictures. So this has got more pictures than any book you've ever read, and it looks fantastic on an iPhone or an iPad
Oh, cool.
or even on a Kindle. You can get it on a Kindle as well if you're a proper reader.
Do you have any plans to print?
If someone will print it for me, I'll print it.
Okay.
I've been told by that same guy in that publishing industry that self-publishing hard copy books is where money goes to disappear.
Yeah, probably.
He goes, if you want to get rid of a whole lot of money very quickly and have a big pile of books at your house that don't
Yeah.
go anywhere, go and try that. You'll love it. But if you don't want to do that, then stick to on the internet.
Yeah, there's something after the show. Well, I'll point you in the direction of, if in case you decide that you want printed books.
Oh, do you know a guy?
No, there's a service called Ink Shares
Okay.
that we could talk about a little bit. And I know somebody who is I know one person, and I know of a couple other people that have uh, used Ink Shares, and so we could talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, okay. I'll check it out. I've actually got it in front of the eyes of a publisher now. So if they can get past the swearing and vulgarity, hopefully they'll see a good book in there, and we might see something in print soon. Who knows?
Cool.
Yeah, it's
So
exciting
one more
times.
time, that's obliviousthebook.com.
Yeah, obliviousthebook.com. And I've got
Um,
I'm on Instagram at Shots from the Bar. It's a weird name, but it makes sense. So Shots from the Bar is like photos from the handlebars.
oh,
Because
nice.
yeah,
I like
you get
that.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm super lazy and I would never get off the bike to take a picture. I'd kind of just lean back and take a shot from just behind the handlebars. So it's kind of like it's the feel that you would get. Like you've got the bike in the bottom of the frame, and then you've got that whatever that beautiful thing is in front, and you
Yeah.
kind of can feel like you're there riding the bike too. So there's a bunch of photos and stories up there. It's worth checking out too.
Maybe I should start taking more pictures that way, because I can't. When I'm traveling on the bike, I can't be bothered to get off and take a picture of anything.
No, totally not. It's definitely the lazy man's shot. It's the one to go for, and it's effective because you look like you're kind of being a bit artistic with it. It ticks all the boxes in my opinion.
Great. So Shots from the Bar on Instagram, obliviousthebook.com.
Bingo.
Luke, it's been great having you on.
It's been wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. You can find our show in all the usual places, caferacerpodcast.com, and then just look for Cafe Racer Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Having said all that, get out and ride.